We're on an impromptu farm tour in southeast Michigan, down near Toledo, learning about CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations.
This is where the 4,000 pigs are right here.
The pigs and the cows make lots of manure, pumped into huge lagoons until it can be sprayed on the fields.
We test at the edge of these fields, and this is where, not just this CAFO, but all the others, this is where we've gotten increasingly high phosphorus levels over the years.
How much makes its way to Lake Erie? These local citizen activists want to know.
When we go out and do this, we do a practice of what we call a 2-minute or less because of harassment, because they chase us down the road, because there will be confrontation.
This is grassroots political action. Their voice is in their test results. That is, if anybody's listening.
The whole idea of what we are doing here on the ground is to show and educate legislators, people of authority, DEQ, EPA, and show them we've got a problem in the water. And that it's at the headwaters of Lake Erie, and that we're getting the readings, we're getting the problems, and showing them here and now.
Scientists do know the algal blooms are fed mostly by farm fertilizer runoff, mostly from commercial fertilizer. But what about the manure?
I wish I could really answer that question. What is the contribution from these animal operations? I'd like to get a better handle on that.
Heidelberg University has been testing the waters in select parts of Ohio for decades. Research here helped get the recent voluntary ag programs going, coaxing farmers to spread their fertilizer wisely, trying new ways to keep the nutrients on their fields.
The voluntary programs, things like planting cover crops at the end of a season, they're going to pull up more nutrients, are fantastic. Only 13, 15, and 16% of farmers actually participate in those programs.
Scientists warned about the Lake Erie blooms even before they returned 20 years ago. Then the blooms turned toxic, and last year, when it shut down Toledo's water supply, an agricultural issue turned political. From Columbus came the bipartisan Senate Bill 1. The toughest sell was to legislators concerned for the farm interests in their districts.
And while this may be called by some the Clean Lake Erie Act of 2015, perhaps a subtitle might be, Heal the lake, but respect the farm.
Senate Bill 1 outlaws the fertilization of farm fields on frozen ground. It hits the livestock farmers who will have to hold on to their manure until the ground thaws in spring.
Okay.
Even when you've got an administration and state house that is reluctant to overregulate, they're putting out a signal to the ag industry. You can either try to start policing yourselves better, or else the government's going to have to come in and do it.
But this one is truly historic. We now have the law.
On Paul Goodman's family farm, he's got a couple hundred cattle. He's a little guy compared to the big CAFO operations up in Michigan.
Within weeks after that situation in Toledo, it seemed to me like all the testing was done, all the results were in, all the conclusions were made. It's the farmer's fault.
It's a reasonable bill, and it's a tough bill, and if you don't cooperate, we're going to bang you over the head, and if you have legitimate problems and you're a small business person, we're going to work with you to fix it. It's absolutely the right balance on all of this.
Goodman has to build another structure to hold the manure over the winter months. It's going to cost him. How much? He's looking at the numbers.
My question is, what is the average person paying out of pocket to improve the water quality in Lake Erie?
Sure.
In July, U.S. Senator Rob Portman took a boat trip on Lake Erie and came back with a souvenir.
This is not a smoothie.
In Washington, he worked on legislation to get agencies like the EPA to keep better track of what's going on in the lake and create a standard as to when too much toxic algae makes the drinking water unsafe.
Some progress has been made, but frankly, this year with this relatively high level of harmful algal blooms, I hope will motivate the federal agencies and departments to move even more quickly.
Yeah, it's leaking a little bit.
The Drinking Water Protection Act is now law, although some say it just makes official what the EPA should have been doing in the first place. In the meantime, further east on the lake, Cleveland is getting ready for the Republican National Convention next summer.
And forget whether it's Republican or Democrat, what you need to know is people from all over the country and, by the way, all over the world are coming to Lake Erie. And we've got to put together a really good program to show them the beauty of this lake.
And that's important for Kasich, who is also running for president. But as governor, what else can he do about the algal bloom problem? Maybe he needs something like this.
I was assigned looking at Lake Erie, and finally I realized what I didn't know. And what I didn't know was what made it recover before.
James Rhodes was governor when the first Lake Erie cleanup began. Rhodes, a South Central Ohio Republican, was known to govern with the mindset, find out what the people want and give it to them.
The way Governor Rhodes did it was with an extensive plan, a 600-page plan that laid out and called out every single source. We have the technology today to know which farms are discharging into our system and which wastewater plants and how much. We can do all that. We just haven't done it.
I can guarantee you we don't even have readings on some of the streams and tributaries to tell us what is happening on those streams and tributaries because people resist the measurement of nutrients in those places. So we don't even have the proper science.
I realize the importance of these valuable Great Lakes, and I want to do everything I can. And if you can prove to me that I'm really a big part of that pollution, I'll do what I have to help that situation. But I want you to prove it to me first with facts, not just with anecdotal evidence.
Governor Rhodes led an effort before, a very defined effort of here's the problems and here's what needs to be done. And, you know, by golly, we did it, and the lake recovered very well. So we know it can happen.